You sent this to Ms. Connors
Yeah,
on
we sent
12th
it to her.
December. It hasn't gotten to me yet.
Okay.
Except, did you copy me? Did you make a copy of this in what you sent me?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's where I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what I'm saying is that when it goes to Geneva, they send it to the staff of the rapporteurship rather than to me.
Okay.
And then they analyze it and then they send it to me with a proposal for action. So unfortunately it takes a few days, more than a few days, unfortunately. But so you did the right thing in writing directly to me. What I did the day I received it is I sent it, I forwarded it to my staff in Geneva, and I asked them to give me their thoughts on what we can do about it.
Basically, just to summarize my father's case, he was he's a businessman in China. He was on a business trip back in June. There has been an ongoing lawsuit between him and one of the ex-government official regarding one of the properties that my father owns. Basically, the government official was trying to take my father's property without paying a penny. Right. And then my father.
If you want the faculty library,
it looks like we are making it here. So
thank you.
Thanks very much.
So the ex-government official trying to take my father's land. And then my father wouldn't let him, so he took him to the Supreme Court. And then my father won the case. And the ex-government official, his name is Lin, he would not uphold the court's decision, so he decided to pretty much bribe the local police and the government to get my father arrested. And from my meeting with the lawyer, my father, basically he mentioned that they have been abusing him, trying to torture him into committing the crimes that he did not commit. And then right now, we were trying to get the Department of State of the U.S. to help, and then trying to get United Nations to help. And we're also contacting the superior government in China, Beijing, to try to get them to pay attention to the case, to try to give my father a fair trial, and basically stop the torture and abuse to force him into, admitting to the crime that he did not commit.
Okay. Okay. Well, we can do a part on that. First, I can write on the question of the torture, and particularly including the fair trial part of it, meaning, for example, that the state is obligated to exclude any evidence obtained under torture from any case against him. But in addition, of course, we will protest any mistreatment and ask the government to investigate, prosecute, and punish whoever may be responsible for it. The other general questions about fair trial, we can ask other rapporteurs or other working groups, special procedures to work on, particularly the working group on arbitrary detention and the special rapporteur on independence of judges and lawyers. Because each of us have a mandate, and they do overlap, but in general we try to keep the fields more or less separate. But we do write joint letters, and so when a single case involves the mandate of more than one, we write sometimes signing with 5 or 6 signatures. It does take a little longer, but not much longer, because the staff of each of the rapporteurships do communicate with each other and share information. So I am going, as I said, I'm going to write to Geneva to ask, what's going on with what you sent to Jane Connors, but also what you sent to me. And I will. I'll let you know when we actually do send the letter. The letter that we do send is confidential. At first, at least, it's confidential. But once once the answer comes back from the government, then it's no longer confidential, and I write a report to the Human Rights Council. Unfortunately, that's where it ends, and the report to the Human Rights Council generally takes a while because my rapporteurship does 250 or 300 cases a year, and so we actually do all of the final reports together, and we submit them once a year to the Human Rights Council. So because this is going to go out now, and the government is going to have 60 days to respond and all that, unfortunately it's not going to be, my views are not going to be presented in March when I next report to the council, then perhaps the following year. But that doesn't mean that it's confidential until more than a year from now. And also it's confidential for me, it's not confidential for you. The fact that you have asked me to do something, and even the fact that I've confirmed that we're doing something, when I do confirm it, you can do whatever you want with that. You can talk to the press, and sometimes what happens is the press calls me to ask, is it true that you're working on Mr. Wu's case? And I can confirm, yes, I am, and I'm interested because of this, and that, but I use, kind of careful language so that I'm not accused of prejudging it, but I do confirm. But for that, of course, we probably have to wait a few days. But what I'm saying is that you can, you can run with the advocacy part of the case and publicity around it the way you see fit.
Okay. And in terms of, so right now, do you have any other recommendation in terms of what other paths I could pursue in terms of trying to give China more pressure into giving my father a fair trial and for them to take actions?
Well, as the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, I'm not in a position to give you advice. But I think by talking to the State Department, you're already on the right track. I hope. I mean, I just don't know how much they will do or not do. But this is a country that does have some influence, I suppose. I would definitely talk to the human rights organizations. I suppose you have contacted Human Rights Watch and...
we contacted Human Rights Watch, but we haven't gotten a response from them. The only organization we got a response from was Amnesty International. Yeah, they have been great help. Yeah.
Well, I think those two are definitely, first stops, as it were.
Is there like a direct number or email or contact Human Rights Watch? Or?
I actually don't know who does the Asia work or the China work. I know they do. I mean, I do know, and I can't remember names right now. I know that the China woman, or the expert, the woman who is the expert on China, is excellent. But I'm trying to remember her name right now, and I think she's based in Asia, maybe in Hong Kong or something, but I'm not sure of that. She probably shows up in the web page. But other than that, just write to Ken Roth. He's the executive director.
And you mentioned something about trying to hold the party responsible through maybe lawsuits or anything like that. How would I go about?
That's a lot harder because China is not subject to the jurisdiction of any particular tribunal or, for example, in the United States you can always go to or against the United States you can always go to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights or the Organization of American States. It's not a very effective forum, but it works. In Europe, against any European country, you can go to the European Court of Human Rights. It's a kind of a long and difficult process, but theoretically, at least, the European Court has jurisdiction over all European countries. But on Asia, as you probably know by now, there are no similar regional courts or anything like that. So And China has not agreed to the jurisdiction of any of the treaty bodies, as they are called, the Committee Against Torture, for example, or the Human Rights Committee of the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Nevertheless, I would write to them as well, because China does come up on the periodic review at the Human Rights Council, and it may be possible for the treaty bodies to do something about it. That's why my rapporteurship and the special procedures more generally are kind of like the residual, place where you can go, because we're not based on a treaty, and so we're not based on consent. We actually have jurisdiction, if you want to call it that, over 194 countries, all member states of the United Nations. That's kind of theoretical, obviously, because whatever we do is also non-binding, and so it depends on whether states choose to pay us some attention or not. But we do have, an open course, as it were. We can address China. Whether it works or not is a different question. But I would definitely explore the possibility of going to the treaty bodies, particularly the CAT, the Committee Against Torture. I just don't, as I said, they may not be able to do it on a case basis, but at least they might use the case when China comes up for review.
And how do I go about contacting the Committee of
It's also through Geneva, like you wrote to Jane Connors, but you have to, instead of Special Procedures Branch, you should address it to the treaty bodies branch. And I don't know who the director is right now, but it's also the same address and everything, and it's not Jane Connors, it's somebody at her level. But you can write to the High Commissioner, and she will direct it to the proper person. High Commissioner is Navi Pillai, as you know. And again, if you get Amnesty to help you, for example, their person in Geneva would be a very useful person to contact. They would direct you exactly to the right person for the treaty bodies. I mean, and again, I don't know, at least not off the top of my head, who the Amnesty person in Geneva is. I met him. He's very bright and very knowledgeable, but I don't know I don't remember the name right now. I think you can find those things, even just calling Amnesty Washington here, right? You're based in California, right?
Yeah. Los Angeles.
So maybe just write to Amnesty in London and ask them who's your person in Geneva. And ask them to give you an email address and just write to him. I would do the same with Human Rights Watch, by the way. Because Human Rights Watch has a woman in Geneva who's also very knowledgeable and very efficient.